Hey, it's just Chase going solo today, sans Shep, as I do at least once a year for a show we don't do too often called Chase Scenes Sunday, where I get to do what I love the most, which is just talk about movies. Um, obviously, people who watch our show, uh, I would not fault you for believing that all I watch is superhero movies and horror films. But I do. I watch a lot of stuff, a lot of stuff. Um, Always been a big film fan. Anybody that knows me knows I'm a big film enthusiast. So I really look forward to doing these shows. Um, to start off with, because I'm such a big film nerd, a few years back in 2020, I started keeping a log of all the movies that I watch. And it's almost like my stat sheet. It's almost like my diary. Uh, Philip and I have talked before about how my mental map of life is all based around movies. I could always tell you what's going on at a certain point in my life based off of what movie I saw at the time, who I was with, what was going on. And so this, like I said, is in a way my diary. I can always crack it open, look at when I watched a movie, what the movie was, and tell you exactly who I was with and what was going down at that point in my life. Um, 2022, I watched the most movies that I've watched since keeping the log. Um, I watched 295 movies in the year 2022, far more than the average person, I'm sure. Um, and I felt like I started and ended the year pretty solid. I began the year with American Underdog, which was a big surprise hit for me. And I ended the year with Bodies, 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 which was also an incredible film. Um, but yeah, so something I do when I keep my movie log is each month after I've logged the movies, we move on to the next month. I choose my favorite movie of each month. It doesn't necessarily have to be a 2022 release. Um, it's just whatever movie stood out to me the most that month. That was like the most enjoyable. So I'm gonna start out with my favorites from month to month before getting into my best of 2022. Um, so let me find the page here. So starting in January, and I apologize, I don't have any posters or anything to pop up on screen as we go. Also, there's no time limit today. We're here to chill. We're here to kick it. We're here to talk movies. Um, Chasing Sunday, baby. Kick those feet up. Um, First and foremost, it was the first movie of the year. I watched it on January 1st, 2022. And January, Phil and I had this crazy idea that we were going to try to watch 1,000 movies uh, in 2022. I think that was the number, was 1,000. I don't know what the fuck we were thinking, but we hit the ground running in January, and we watched 58 movies in January. Something I learned from that experiment is don't do that. Don't watch that many movies in that short amount of time, because then it all blurs together. It's all pointless. Like nothing is going to. I don't know. You can't get as much enjoyment out of it. Too much of a good thing, sort of thing. So that whole month was a blur to me of watching all these movies that, like, to go back now, it's like I don't even remember watching some of these. Um, but my favorite one of those 58 that I watched that month was the very first one I saw. That was American Underdog. And when I saw the trailers for that movie, I did not at all think that that looked like a good movie. Um, and I was so impressed by how good it was. It's an underrated gem for sure. I could see where some people might see it and think it's like a very like faith-based Hallmark movie of the week sort of thing. Uh, about I can't even think of the guy's name. Kurt Warner, maybe. I don't know. I don't know. Football player, played for the Rams. Um, it was an excellent movie. Made me cry. Um, I own it on Blu-ray now. It's up on my shelf. Um, but it was a good way to kick off the year. It was my favorite movie of January. February, favorite movie of February um, was Jackass Forever. I just didn't have another experience like it in February. And quite frankly, when we'll get more into it later when I start talking about the best of 2022. But Jackass Forever, for as early in the year as it came out, it held up all year as one of the best, which is surprising to say about a Jackass movie for sure. Um, March was, I think, possibly the only, if one of few movies that did not come out in the year 2022 that made my favorites list. That was No Escape with Owen Wilson and Pierce Brosnan, Lake Bell, and I'd never really heard anything about it, but my girlfriend insisted we watched it. She said it was a really good movie, and boy was she right. I was on the edge of my seat the whole time I watched that movie. It was like a blind buy, really. We were at a used video shop, and uh, that was on the shelf. She's like, "If you haven't seen this, you got to buy this." So I just took her word for it. I bought it, and I'm glad that I did. And now, yeah, this was all the way back in March, and we just constantly were telling people, "Oh, you got to watch this movie. You got to watch this movie." They're like, "What's it on? What's it on?" Well, now it's on Netflix. It was in the top 10 movies this week on Netflix. So you can go check out No Escape. It's a very thrilling movie. Um, the suspense in it is just on a whole other level. The tension is just you could cut it with a knife. Um, April, Everything, Everywhere, All at Once, and again, this is a movie I'll get more into later. But I saw it, according to this, I saw it 3 times in a row, and I believe I saw it a fourth time. Yes, I did. Saw it 4 times in theaters. I wanted to know what the movie I saw the most time in theaters was, and it was Everything Everywhere All at Once. I've seen it 4 times in theaters. I think I've watched it 5 times this year. And it not only was one of my favorite of the year, it wasn't just my favorite of April, but it has taken the top spot as my favorite movie of all time. So if anybody ever asks, what is your number one favorite movie? I can now say Everything Everywhere All at Once has dethroned uh, About Time. So we'll get more into that a little later with the best of stuff. May, for me, it was Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. I saw this one in theaters like 3 times, and I've watched it several times since it's come out on home release. I know some people were disappointed by it. It wasn't what some people wanted it to be. Um, I don't think it's the best thing that Marvel's done, but I'll be damned if it's not one of the most fun, rewatchable movies that they've made. That could be my predisposition to loving Sam Raimi so much. Um, but just everything about that movie was just a blast for me. Um, and I really enjoy it. It was definitely, I think I said yesterday on Super Saturday, it was my favorite superhero film of the year. Um, but yeah, Doctor Strange: The Multiverse of Madness for May. June was Top Gun Maverick, which kind of surprises me because I don't really remember Top Gun Maverick all that well. I know I watched it, I know I enjoyed it, and I know it's getting a lot of buzz now that award season is upon us. Um, but somehow, some way, it came out on top in June as my favorite movie. So it must have been pretty good, I guess, for somebody who did not like the original Top Gun. I mean, saying a lot. And that's not the only sequel to do that this year either. July, it was Marcel the Shell with Shoes On. Easily one of my favorite movies of the year. Just so goddamn wholesome. I don't know if I've seen something so wholesome in a very long time. I don't even think you can get this wholesome in kids' movies these days. It was just such a sweet story. Definitely brought tears to my eyes. Um, Marcel's just adorable. I was not aware that it was like a series of YouTube videos before going to see the movie. Um, I did watch the videos before seeing the movie uh, because my girlfriend knew what they were, and she had me watch all of them beforehand. Um, you don't necessarily need to see them. There's a lot of stuff rehashed in the movie that they do in the videos. Um, but yeah, Marcellus Shell with Shoes On. August, another movie that people I know were kind of like half and half on. Either you thought it was brilliant or you thought it was utter garbage. That was Nope. and I fall under the category of thinking it was brilliant. Um, it took some time to sink in for me. Um, the first time I watched Nope, I knew I was seeing something great, but I didn't understand why. I felt conflicted on how I felt about like on how I how I felt about the movie overall. Uh, but when the movie was over, for me, it was the days after I saw Nope that solidified it as my favorite of the month and one of my favorites of the year, because I couldn't stop thinking about this fucking movie. Like I could not stop thinking about Nope, and it was just constantly on my mind. There were so many images from that movie that just stuck with me, and I was like, I got to go back and see this again. And if you didn't see it in the IMAX, you missed out because that was the optimal way to see Nope. It was definitely designed to be a spectacle, and a spectacle it was. Um, September, a movie that I had a very deep relationship with this year. I saw Clerks 3 for the first time in September. It is the movie I shed a lot of tears at the movie theaters this year, but I have never openly just bawled my eyes out at a movie until Clerks 3. If somebody had told me that Clerks 3 was going to be the movie to just break me emotionally in a theater full of people, I would have laughed. I would have been like, there's no fucking way. But here we are. It's happened. I sobbed. And the next month, at the end of October, I got to go to the Convenience Tour. I got to meet Kevin Smith. It was one of the most magical moments of the year of my life, and I will definitely never forget it. I hope to go to another tour of Kevin Smith's in the future, because it was just such an amazing experience, especially growing up with these characters and everything. It was a really cool send off. Um, October. This is going to be a controversial one. Uh, there are two camps on this one too. I feel like, but one camp is a lot more full than the one I'm in. My favorite movie of October was Halloween Ends, and I know a lot of people did not like Halloween Ends, but I loved it. For the same reason I love The Last Jedi, and movies that kind of fall under that category because they just feel like one big fuck you to the audience. But while that sounds like a bad thing, I don't see it as a bad thing. It doesn't feel like a bad fuck you. It feels like not the audience per se, but the fans who do nothing but sit around and speculate, and they're almost like spoiled children who expect to get their way when it comes to franchise movies. And I personally, of the three, was not the like initially I liked Halloween 2018. I find it to be the least rewatchable of the three. Halloween Kills was silly, but I had a lot of fun with it. And for me, Halloween Ends was brilliant. I really enjoyed Halloween Ends. I understand people's problems with it regarding Michael Myers and all that stuff. But for me, I never saw this trilogy, this Halloween trilogy, to be about Michael and Laurie. It never seemed like that's what it was about to me. It always seemed like this trilogy was about evil, evil as an entity. And when you, I feel like when you watch the trilogy through that lens, it really feels like a more satisfying experience than wanting this Michael Myers movie that, you know, I definitely get the dissatisfaction there. But I mean, the opening scene of Halloween Ends alone had my jaw on the floor. I was like, "Oh shit, that's how we're starting this party? Okay, let's go. Let's do this." Um, so yeah, I know I get it. I understand why people don't like it, but for me, I really had a great time with it. November, some people can make the argument that this is not a movie, but if it's categorized as a movie on Disney Plus, but it was the Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special. Um, it was everything I could have wanted it to be. It was top notch Christmas. Uh, the humor, the emotions. Just James Gunn has such a way with making you laugh and cry all in like the span of 45 minutes. You know, it's just wild how much he can accomplish. in such a short amount of time. He's very good at that kind of stuff. Like Peacemaker is a great example as well. And obviously the rest of the Guardians movies, they've always made me emotional. I feel like that's why Guardians 3 is just going to be a sob fest, I'm sure. Um, and then December was a tricky one. It came down to three movies, and I didn't know which was going to take the top spot. Um, but ultimately, I went with After Yang, that had Colin Farrell in it, and it was just such a beautiful movie. Um, Another A24 film, big A24 fan. Um, and honestly, of the three movies that it came down to, After Yang took the top spot, if anything, not only because it was such a beautiful film, a contemplative film, just about life and what it means to be human and everything. But that opening credit sequence, like alone, like as soon as I saw that, I was like, I'm in for something special. And the opening sequence alone, I was just like, this is what is going to ultimately put it on the top of my list for December. So yes, After Yang was my favorite of December, and those were my favorites from month to month uh, throughout the year. Um, and like I said, I watch a lot of movies. I'm already up to it's the eighth day of the year, and I've already watched 13 movies this year alone. So we'll see what my number hits at the end of the year. But so we'll get into the best and worst of the year. Um, I'm gonna start with the worst and then lead into the best because my worst of list is far shorter. I don't even think I would really have to struggle to get I think 10 films on my worst of list. But there were some that like there's just undoubtedly were just pieces of shit in my mind, or at least unenjoyable. I refrain from calling movies bad a lot of the time because even if I find it bad, somebody enjoys it. Like it might not be for me, but it is for somebody else, and that doesn't mean that it's a bad movie. But some some movies are just fucking bad movies. Um, Easily, like if I just had to jump into the very worst of the year for me, hands down, just like I just couldn't stand this movie from start to finish, and I was just so utterly disappointed because Judd Apatow directed it, and he's one of my all time favorite directors. Um, it's called The Bubble, and it came out on Netflix back in like April, I want to say, and oh my god, it was horrendous. Like one of the cardinal sins of comedy is making a comedy that's not funny, and it just was not funny, and it was mostly annoying. um and I just like I didn't understand it because this is the guy who's done Knocked Up, This Is 40, Funny People, The King of Staten Island, like all these fantastic comedy classics. And I don't know what he was smoking when he made The Bubble, especially with such a stacked cast and everything, but it was just horrendous. Definitely my least favorite movie of the year, undoubtedly. The other one on my little list here, I give thumbs downs to the ones I really didn't like, and little hearts for the ones I loved. Um, Only two movies got the thumbs down. The other one, also a director, I've loved everything else he's done. Um, Ex Machina, Annihilation, one of my favorite movies of all time. This year, Alex Garland made the movie Men, and I went to the theaters to see it. It was an A24 movie. It was Alex Garland. I was like, all right, this has got a lot going for it. Not very often am I the person of all the weird shit I watch. I very rarely am I the person at the end of a movie that goes, "What the fuck did I just watch?" And why the fuck did I just watch it? Why did I just spend the time watching this movie? Uh, because it was just bizarre, and I don't mind a bizarre movie. Um, but just like I just kept waiting for something to give in this movie, and then like the ending came along and it was so drawn out, and I think it was just like trying, I don't know if it was trying to be shocking with the body horror elements, but I'm just like, yo, this is not working for me at all. It was just like just weird and completely unsatisfactory. By the end of it, I was not a fan of Men. Um, Another one that, like I said, those were the only two I truly gave thumbs down to. So the rest of these are just kind of nitpicky ones. Um, Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Did y'all know that came out last year? Because it did. Came out on Netflix in like March, I think. A new one. They tried to do the legacy sequel thing, where they just like tried to be a sequel to only the first movie and just ignored everything else. And there was a very common theme in a lot of movies in 2022, and it was like this "eat the rich" theme, and it just kept kind of coming up and like in all sorts of different genres, all sorts of different films, again and again and again. These main characters are just like the worst people in the world, these spoiled rich people who get what's coming to them, and like sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. Overall, a lot of the characters were just plain annoying. Um, but Texas Chainsaw Massacre was one of those movies. I'll admit the kills and stuff, like as a horror fan, like that was a blast for sure. It had some good kills in it, but otherwise, that movie just didn't did not work for me whatsoever. Um, let's see here. One that was, I don't even know if it's worth the breath. Firestarter with Zach Efron, just dull, just a dull experience. I saw that the same day I saw Men. I did a little double feature at the theater that day. I saw Men and then I saw Firestarter, and that was quite possibly the most disappointing day at the theater I've ever spent. Because back to back, they just were duds. And Firestarter, I mean, like I say, it's just dull. It's just plain dull, and there really wasn't a lot to redeem it. I like Zach Efron as an actor. I was excited to see him play a father for once. That's something I haven't seen him do before. And all in all, it just felt like an utter waste. A couple other movies that scored a little low for me this year. Um, Ambulance. Uh, Michael Bay is incredibly hit or miss with me. More times miss than hit for me. He bores me to tears a lot of the time with his action movies. Ambulance is no exception. When we're like, I don't know, we got like well over an hour left of this movie, and they're just getting into this ambulance, and it occurred to me that the next hour or so of this movie was going to be a fucking car chase the whole time. I was like, I'm out. I'm done. I will give it because Belle just chimed in. I knew she would. She really enjoyed it. She insisted I finish because I went to sleep before the movie was over. Again, something I don't often do without the intent of finishing it at another time. But she insisted I finished it the next day because she really enjoyed the ending. I'll give it that. I did enjoy the ending. A nice little moral conundrum for the main character and everything. But Michael Bay, man, he just fucking obviously I've heard it said before, and this is my exact thoughts on the movie. You could have called that movie Michael Bay got a new drone and wants to show it off. Like that could have been an alternative title to Ambulance because that's what that whole movie was. And it was like the same and that was my thing. It wasn't like he was just showing off the new drone he got. It was the same drone shot again and again and again. Like he just thought that was the coolest shit in the world and he's like, "Yeah, do that again." And I'm like, "No, fuck that. I'm not here for it." Um One that might disappoint Shep to hear, not that it was bad, it was just not my thing. The Bob's Burgers movie. Um, I used to really enjoy watching Bob's Burgers. If you like Bob's Burgers, you're gonna like the Bob's Burgers movie. I mean, it's just a long episode of Bob's Burgers. That's all it was. There it is. I love it. Y'all weren't here when I was talking about everything else, but you're here when I start talking shit about the movies you guys like. But uh it was decent. It was decent. I can't really shit on that too much. It's probably not even fair to mention it in the worst of because I don't think it was the worst of the year by any means. Just not my thing. Oh, we've been here. Thanks, Bell. Hiding in the shadows. Um, Couple more. One that was like Lizzie's jaw just dropped. Said it was also rad. Ambulance. I don't know. I don't know. To each their own, Film is definitely subjective, but for me, it wasn't my jam. Um, One that was also kind of again, it's like it's hard to say it was even the worst of the year because it's like I went in expecting exactly what I got, which was just like a dull, like spooky movie, and it was called or Uma or however the hell that's pronounced. I'm probably butchering it right now. It's Korean for mother, um, and it had Sandra Oh in it of Grey's Anatomy fame, and she Sandra Oh was in a lot of stuff this year. It's nice to see her doing more things. I really like her as an actress, but this was just one of those like color by numbers scary movies. It was super boring, but it was super short, and I can't say it's not what I expected it to be. So I couldn't have been disappointed. Um, let's see here. Another one again. I Bell. I don't know how you're going to feel about this. I don't because I don't remember how you felt about this movie. Moonfall was one that did not score very high on my list. But again, this is one of those movies that I got exactly what I expected out of it. Like it didn't break down any barriers, but it also met my level, but it wasn't a high bar to clear. Um, it's just, one of those silly disaster movies, I guess. Had kind of a crazy ending. Uh, Tried to lead you to think, what the hell is Moonfall? See, exactly. Exactly. It's the one where they go to the moon, but the moon's like not the moon or whatever. Like it's got all the aliens inside of it or some shit. I don't know. It was weird. It was bizarre. Because I think it was gonna crash into the earth. It goes to show how memorable Moonfall was. Um, but yeah, like I said, I mean, it was exactly what I figured it would be. So it met those expectations. Um, and that may have been it for the ones that scored low for me this year. I don't remember that. We did watch it. We did in fact watch it. But yeah, that's what I would consider the worst of the year. But basically those first like two or three I talked about, I think are the worst. The rest were just either disappointing or just not my thing. Just ones I scored kind of low throughout the year. Was that the weird computerized one? I think so. Like the aliens were like robots or some shit. They were all like the little I don't know wave of whatever the fuck. It was weird. It was weird. I think Halle Berry was in it. Um, so that brings me to the best of the year, um, which is so much more fun to talk about, so much more positive. Um, and I don't have like a top 10 or nothing like that. I do know some movies that definitely like rank higher than others. Um, Hands down, no competition. Even though it came out early in the year, and I'm really fucking pulling for it this award season. Everything Everywhere All at Once, man. I can't stress this enough. I fucking love this movie. If you haven't seen it, you need to see it. Like, even if you think it's not going to be your thing, it could change your life. It's just such an incredible film. There's nothing else like it. In a year where we got Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, there was only one Multiverse of Madness, and that was Everything Everywhere All at Once. It's just everything about it. It was just so great. And the filmmakers behind it, the Daniels, also made one of my other favorite movies called Swiss Army Man. And they are definitely just two of the most inventive filmmakers out there right now. And I'm so glad to see them getting so much recognition for this film. I think it's going to sweep the Oscars, or I sure hope it does, because nothing even came close to touching this movie for me this year. Nothing was better than that for me. Um, Other than that, I won't really rank them, but just going kind of down the list of how I saw them. Uh, Scream 2022, uh, I really enjoyed. It's one that it came out so early in the year, I believe January, that it definitely deserves a rewatch at this point, so I can have a fresher take on it. But I really enjoyed it. Big fan of the Scream franchise. It's I think like my top three slasher franchises are Child's Play, Halloween, and Scream, and it this delivered, and I'm really looking forward to Scream 6 as well. Uh, Kept me guessing till the end, which is always a lot of fun. But in particular, what kind of landed this on my favorite list of the year is they do a scene in the movie. It's like your classic horror movie setup of like, you know, hell yeah, just picked up the first three Screams at Walmart, all classics. Um, maybe not Scream 3 so much. Uh, but they do the scene, the classic horror trope of like, you open the fridge and when they close that fridge door, something's going to be on the other side. Excuse me. And over the years, they've obviously like played with that trope where like, it used to be you close it, there they are. And then they started playing with us where it's like they close the door and then there's nothing there like you expected it to be. But then they like turn around and god damn it, like there was something there to scare me. Um and just when you thought you couldn't squeeze any more tension out of that trope, here comes Scream 5 this year and does that the best I think I've ever seen it done. Because they drag that particular trope out for like, I don't know, maybe 3 to 4 minutes. Um and it just keeps, you keep thinking, "Oh, here it comes. Oh no, I guess not. Oh, here it comes. Oh, I guess not." And they really string you along so that when it does finally happen, you're like, "Oh, I guess it's just not going to happen." You kind of just, well, whatever. I guess they're not going to do it. But when they do, it's just so effective. And that scene was so beautifully shot. It's so beautifully done. As a horror movie fan, it's up there as one of my favorite like horror movie moments just because of the way it was shot. It was incredible. Um, Another that would probably be within my top 10 of the year. This is shocking to say, and I'll go ahead. I'll tie them up. Jackass Forever and Jackass 4.5 were two of the best movies of the year. Like, I shit you not. Jackass Forever was one of the best movies of the year. It was such a good time at the theater. I laughed so hard, like especially in an era where comedies are few and far between. It was just so like, I don't know, warm and inviting. Like to see the Jackass guys back again and doing their thing. The new blood. It was some of the best like bits I've ever seen in a Jackass movie. And then just when I thought it couldn't get any better, they released Jackass 4.5 on Netflix. And in my personal opinion, I think 4.5 is even better than Jackass Forever was. I think I laughed even harder at 4.5 than I did the actual theatrical release. But hands down, my now favorite Jackass bit of all time is Silence of the Lambs. It was just hysterical, and we all had such a great time. That was a really solid ass movie. 4.5 is goat though. That one, it did have good shit in it, man. I was rolling. Those are two that I'm also really looking forward to rewatching. Um I wish I could say the Batman was one I gave a heart to, but like I only ever saw it the one time, and when I did see it, I was in like I just started having like a health issue begin like the day we went to go see this movie. And so it was really hard for me to focus on this film for like 3 hours. But obviously I really enjoyed it. And I do own a copy, and I'm looking forward to rewatching it because it's an excellently made Batman film. Definitely not one for the kiddos. That's for damn sure. Um, Another one that I can kind of pair together is two-thirds of a trilogy we did not even know was going to happen. But X and Pearl are the first two entries of this surprise trilogy with Maxine on the way. Mia Goth killing it as one of the modern day scream queens. Um, X was just something else, man. I know for some people it's not going to be their thing. Even as a horror movie fan, it might not be somebody's thing. But like whenever Kid Cudi's in something, I'm in. Again, another A24 hit this year. Um, it kind of turned some slasher stuff on its head for sure. And even though the kills and stuff like were nice and gory and fun, um, it was the creepiness for me that got to me in this movie. I mean, it was just unsettling. Some of the scenes with the villain of this movie being an old woman who she just wants, to be loved. She just wants to be touched. It is a very like sexual movie, but it just has this creep factor like no other because of the main villain being this old woman, um, named Pearl, also played by Mia Goth. So she's pulling double duty, playing two characters, the lead actress and Pearl, the old lady, which I did not know till the end of the movie. And then, of course, at the end of the credits, they dropped a little surprise trailer for the sequel that they'd already shot called Pearl. That was the prequel to this movie, showing how this old woman got to be how she is. And that came out later in the year, and vastly different movie. X was like a real Texas Chainsaw Massacre homage. Those slasher films from the '70s, really gritty grindhouse feel. And then you jump back to this like Technicolor nightmare that is Pearl, that takes place, like, I want to say in the 1940s. Um, and it was just an entirely different beast. And of course, at the end of Pearl, at the end of the credits, they dropped another surprise trailer for a third film called Maxine, picking up after the events of X, that is going to be coming out this next year. And that's going to be like the '80s, like video industry. So it's been a wild ride, and I'm really looking forward to that third movie. Um, Other one, Doctor Strange: The Multiverse of Madness. I already kind of talked about that a little bit. It was just a lot of fun. I know some people were disappointed by it, but I had a blast with it. I really dig those characters in particular. I love Sam Raimi. I love what he did with this movie. I love the horror elements. Love the well, I, I enjoy the one multiverse element because there's not a lot of multiverses in this film other than fleeting glimpses, which is definitely one of the biggest complaints. But there were some great like cheering moments in the theater for that one, that I don't think were present in the other Marvel movies this year. But yeah, a lot of fun. Doctor Strange: The Multiverse of Madness. Um, Turning Red, uh, the Pixar film. Again, a lot of Asian representation this year, and I'm a big fan of Asian culture, of Asian films, and so it did not surprise me that a lot of these movies made the top of my list. But Turning Red was also interesting because it was like a period piece, set in like the early 2000s, which like is, as somebody who grew up in the early 2000s as a child, like the nostalgia was real, and I was just like, man, they've got this pegged. And it was such a sweet movie. I would really like to watch it again. um yeah, Pixar, man, they'd be hits on hits. One that I don't know if anybody that I know personally has seen this movie, um, but The Northman was one of my favorites of the year. Robert Eggers is a director that I really enjoy. I like his style. That like when he chooses to do a period piece, like he goes all in on it. The Witch is one of my favorites. I love watching The Witch. That was like his, I believe his kind of debut film, if not the one that made him big. Um, and I know like some people don't dig The Witch because it is like a folk tale, like 100%. There's no Hollywood flourish to it. It's just like you're there in the fucking 1600s with these people, and it just is what it is. And I love it. And it's the same vibe with The Northman. I unfortunately haven't seen The Lighthouse, but The Northman is probably his most Hollywood, like big budget movie that he's made so far. But still, it's like it's a Viking movie through and through. Like it is like you are there, like in the Viking area. Like, you got the show Vikings, but there's that Hollywood paint job on Vikings, like that you're watching actors play Vikings in a week to week show. Whereas The Northman is just dirty, it's gritty, like it's just exactly what it would have been like to be there with these Vikings at that time. And it was, I mean, again, Robert Eggers is doing it different, guys. Like he just has a certain style that really, really, does it for me. Um, let's see here. Let's see here. Marcel the Shell with Shoes On. Really, not much more to say on that. A24. Very wholesome shit. I can't stress that enough. Marcel the Shell with Shoes On is the most wholesome movie I think I've ever seen in my entire life. Aside from the Mr. Rogers documentary I saw a few years back. Um, but yeah, I mean, if you can't smile watching Marcel the Shell and he doesn't get to your soul somehow, you got a fucking problem, bub. You got to get that heart checked. Um, Nope, Jordan Peele's Nope. Um, Back at it again on my best of list. Um, like I said, like the first time I went and saw this movie, I was kind of on the same page with everybody else of like, I don't really know how I felt about this. Um, but I'm telling you, like the days after I saw this movie, I could not shake this movie. It just stayed on my mind for days and days and days. And I had to start doing research online. I started watching other people's like breakdown videos talking about it. And then eventually I just went back to watch it again. And I think I ended up seeing it 3 times throughout the year. Um, but I loved it, man. I mean, it was just it's something different, and it was cool to see Jordan Peele work on a different scale. And I mean, that's Jordan Peele is one of those directors who is unlucky in the sense that his first movie, Get Out, was so goddamn good that that's what people are constantly going to hold him to. And there's the spam. Uh, but they're always going to hold him to the standard of Get Out, and not every movie he makes is going to be Get Out. Um, I Us took me some time to come around to. Nope took me a little time to come around to, but overall, it was very very enjoyable. Little honorable mention here as I go down the list was a movie called 13 Lives on Amazon about um, the kids, the I believe in Thailand that the soccer players that got trapped in the cave. True story, has Viggo Mortensen, Colin Farrell. Uh, Very good movie. I recommend. Of course, Clerks 3. Just overall in 2022, Clerks 3 holds a special place in my heart. Got right here my VIP pass to the convenience tour where I got to meet Kevin Smith, and he just made my entire life by speaking to me, and just one of the most personable guys ever. It was a really cool way to see that trilogy come to an end, especially to go to the convenience tour and be in a place filled with people who are all there for the same reason. Um, it was a great time. Halloween Ends. I can't say much more about that than I did earlier. I loved it. I know I get why other people didn't love it, but I was a fan. Another honorable mention here: the Munsters, because somebody's. I just told Shep earlier. Somebody's got to put respect on the Munsters, because for what it is, it's a blast. For me, that's a movie that like when it comes Halloween time, I'm gonna watch that with my kids. It's just like it's a really good like family friendly Halloween film. Like, is it a perfect movie? Fuck no. By no means is it a perfect movie. It feels like a setup for another movie that we're probably never going to get, but that's okay. Like I have a good time with it when I watch it. Let's see here. Another honorable mention, Barbarian. Unlike anything else I saw this year, it was batshit crazy. If you haven't seen Barbarian yet, as far as being a horror movie fan goes, you got to go check that shit out because it's wild. Lots of you just don't know where it's going. It's one of those movies. The whole time you're watching it, you're just wondering where the fuck is this movie going. Um, so yes, Barbarian. Um, Black Panther, Wakanda Forever. Don't really have a lot to say there either. I just expected to cry a lot more, and I did not. I think I got that out of the way with the trailers. Um, Another one on my favorites list, however, is a movie directed by Jared Carmichael called On the Count of Three. Um, it's a movie about these two best friends who basically make a suicide pact. They're planning on killing themselves at the end of this day after they go and do some shit. It's a familiar plot. Hands down, one of the most Midwest movies I've ever seen in my life, and I loved the movie in part for that reason. But it was also just like a very dark comedy. with a lot of emotion to it. That just like it just really hit, and you're really wondering like how is this going to end? You know, there's only so many ways that this movie can go down, and I think the way that they decided to go was a good choice. I believe it's on Hulu now. If you want to check that one out, it's on Hulu. A movie I did not expect to hit my favorite of the year list: Avatar: The Way of Water. I talked mad shit on Avatar for 13 years. Just had such an issue with that movie for an assortment of reasons. Um, Only to be blown away by Avatar: The Way of Water. Um, I totally get the hype for anybody who saw the first Avatar in IMAX 3D because that's how I saw this Avatar. And one, I just think it's a superior movie to the first one. I did rewatch the first one before seeing this, and I can forgive it. I don't think it's all that bad now. But Avatar 2 did the impossible, and it made me excited for the rest of these movies. Because before I just felt it was gratuitous, and I'm like, fuck five more of these things. But now I am genuinely excited to see what comes next in the Avatar franchise, and I will be there at the IMAX with my 3D glasses every time to see it. Especially, the technology. I've literally, other than the movie Gravity, I don't think I've ever seen something so good in 3D in my entire life, except for the good old days where 3D was just a cardboard uh, fucking cutout with your red and green or red and blue glasses, and things were just like 3D. Like that's my 3D right there. I like that shit. But yeah, Way of Water really utilized it in a way that I was just like, wow, this is just fucking beautiful. A few more honorable mentions here. All Quiet on the Western Front remake. It's German film. It's on Netflix. Very brutal. Definitely does not make war look appealing whatsoever. Not that a lot of us think war is appealing, but this really hits home just how disgusting war is and brutal and just the whole movie is just bleak. There is not a moment of levity in this entire movie, unfortunately. If you're looking for the feel good movie of the year, it's not All Quiet on the Western Front, but it's a good one. Uh, Babylon didn't quite make my favorites of the year, but it is worth mentioning because I did rate it very highly. It was another one of those movies that as I watched it in theaters, I was like, I'm watching something special. Like I'm watching something that's unlike anything else I've ever seen. And it's just insane. That movie is insane. The first 30 minutes of the film are this wild party in the Hollywood Hills. And they use every curse word in the book within the first like 10 minutes of the movie. Also, within the first 10 minutes of the movie, somebody gets shit on by an elephant, POV shot of it. Somebody's getting pissed on by some girl. People are doing copious amounts of drugs. Like they hit the ground running in those first 10 minutes, and they're like, give me that R rating, like, give it to me. And I overall, like, it wasn't my favorite thing in the world, but it was unique. And I was like, there's really, this movie's just stands on its own. Um, After Yang, as I mentioned before, just a beautiful film about life and what it means to be human. Um, Colin Farrell, man, I don't think anybody, maybe Jenna Ortega probably had just as good of a year as Colin Farrell, but Colin Farrell did not one, not two, not three, but four of the best performances of the year, starting with the Batman as Penguin, unrecognizable as the Penguin. He was in 13 Lives. He was excellent in that. After Yang, he's absolutely heartbreaking in that movie. And another movie that is probably going to be sweeping at the Oscars this year is called The Banshees of Inisherin. And he was excellent in that movie too. And Banshees is written and directed by one of my favorite writer directors, Martin McDonough, who did Three Billboards Outside of Ebbing, Missouri, and Seven Psychopaths. Seven Psychopaths is one of my favorites of all time, and he always has a penchant for like uh, really dark movies that are really funny, and this is no exception to that. If you can get past the Irish accents, that is, because they are thick. They are thick in this movie. Um, Another one, Bodies, Bodies, Bodies. Um, A24, Pete Davidson's in it. One of those things that, like, as soon as you see the trailers, you're like, this is the most millennial thing that's ever made. And that's intentional, it's by design. Another one of those Eat the Rich movies, um, where this group of teenagers gets together at one of their houses, rich dude, for to have like a party while this big storm comes through, and they decide to play a game called Bodies, Bodies, Bodies. And of course, somebody winds up dead, and there's a killer amongst them. And there have been a lot of great, like, Glass Onion also came out this year, and that was a fun whodunit. But Bodies, Bodies, Bodies did the impossible. Philip and I watched it together, and for as many movies as he and I have watched, and we also write a lot of stuff, we know the ins and outs of the tropes, like, and so usually we can figure out a movie, we can figure out a mystery before it gets to its end. And this movie kept me guessing the entire time, up till the very end. And when it finally reveals the answers at the end, you just gotta laugh. I mean, the movie was hilarious, and the mystery and suspense were excellent as well. um Probably one of the best horror movies of the year that I was so pleasantly surprised by was Smile. Um, I mean, I feel like it's not too often these days that a studio horror movie comes along that is genuinely scary. And for me, I found it genuinely scary as I was watching it in broad daylight, and I was just feeling like so tense. It was actually, I think, the second movie ever to hit me with a jump scare, and I audibly screamed out loud, not expecting the jump scare. It happened. I was like, ah! I just fucking did not see it coming. But it was also like a lot deeper than I expected it to be. Um, a lot of the movie was about trauma, and it's just, yeah, it's just very interesting. And then finally, Studio 666, the Foo Fighters movie that came out last year. Well, Foo Fighters horror movie. I love this thing. Is it one of the best of the year? Not necessarily, but it was definitely one of my favorites of the year. It was a blast. I had so much fun watching this movie because that's what it is. It's just a fun time. And I mean, they hit all the horror tropes. John Carpenter not only cameos in it, but also did some of the score for it. And so that's always fun to see. The practical effects, I'm a big practical effects guy, and they were super on point in this movie. And especially, I think if you're a Foo Fighters fan, you're really going to enjoy this movie. If you're also a horror movie fan, that is. Um, but yeah, those are the favorites of 2022. There was a lot that I didn't get to. Obviously, that's going to happen every year. I can't, watch everything within the year. Lord knows I try. Um, but I'm gonna hit you with this list that most people don't do. But this is, I'm gonna just give you 10 on this one. My top 10, um, still anticipated, of 2022 that I haven't watched yet. Um, First of those being RRR. It's an Indian movie that was a huge hit this year. Um, I couldn't tell you much about it. I think it was about two real life revolutionaries, but the whole movie is very fictitious. Bollywood's been making a big splash here in America the past few years, and so this one's been getting a lot of buzz, especially around you know awards season. So I'm looking forward to watching that. I believe it's on Netflix. Another Netflix one I was wanting to watch that didn't get around to was Hustle with Adam Sandler. Um, I love Adam Sandler. I love Adam Sandler comedies, but I really love when Adam Sandler does dramas, when he does serious stuff, because I think he's just such an excellent actor, and he just brings his A game to these serious roles, and he's just so good at it that it's hard to see old Billy Madison and Happy Gilmore in this guy. And Hustle, I know, is a big passion project for him because the man loves basketball. So it's one that's just evaded me all year, but I'm really looking forward to seeing it. 3,000 Years of Longing, from director George Miller, who made the Mad Max movies, um, and Babe, the pig, for you kiddos. Um, just looked like a trip of a movie. Um, that's shit. That's all I could say about it. That's all I can say about it. But I'm looking forward to watching it still. One I'm looking forward to here in award season is Tar with Kate Blanchett. I'm back and forth with as many good things as I hear about it. I'm assuming that I will enjoy it, but at the same time, it does look like it might be kind of a dull drag. It's yet to be seen. Um, Weird, the Al Yankovic story, definitely high on my list of still anticipated from 2022. I've been wanting to watch that movie. I love just about everything Daniel Radcliffe has done post Harry Potter. I'm a big fan of Daniel Radcliffe and all of his weird decisions. And I like Weird Al, and so I'm looking forward to seeing that movie. Um, some of my recent favorites, love Weird Al. How could you not, man? How could you not? He's a fun guy. Um, One of my recent favorite director duos, Justin Benson and Aaron Moorhead, they're starting to gain a little traction now because they directed a few episodes of Loki, or nope, Moon Knight, but they're getting ready to direct some episodes of Loki. They had a new movie come out this year called Something in the Dirt. Their sci-fi movies are always something unique, and so I'm just they're one of those filmmakers. If they make something, I'm excited to see it. The Fablemans, Steven Spielberg's autobiographical film about his, coming up as a child and how he kind of got into movies and stuff. It just sounds like it's right up my alley. I'm looking forward to seeing that one. I think it's going to be a great film. Seth Rogen, again, speaking of comedians in serious roles, I always love to see Seth Rogen take on some serious stuff because he too is an excellent actor. He's in it along with Paul Dano, who was also excellent as the Riddler earlier this year. Um, One I don't know a lot about, but I've been hearing fantastic things is The Menu. I'm still looking forward to seeing that one. Um, the Whale is one that has not come out in wide release yet, but definitely one of my most anticipated of 2022 still. Brendan Fraser getting all sorts of buzz for this role. Shit, man, it's another A24. You watch the trailer and just it's hard not to cry even watching the trailer, man. Like it's just heartbreaking. He plays a 600-pound man who's basically on death's door, and he's just trying to reconnect with his daughter. It looks incredible. And Darren Aronofsky made the movie, and I really enjoy his movies. Requiem for a Dream, Black Swan, The Wrestler, um, Mother, which I'm not as crazy about, but he made that one too. 69mega.com. Looks like we found a girl for you. I guess they're still here. Oh, this is different. The last one said, fill life with emotions, find love. Thanks, guys. Out there supporting old Chase and Shep. And last but not least is, I believe, a Korean film called Broker. I'm just really looking forward to. I think it's about people trying to find like I don't know. I really don't know much about it. I have no room to speak on that movie. Um, yeah. So last but not least, face red heart shape. I don't know if that's what you intended to do or if there were supposed to be emojis there, but last but not least, the anticipated films of 2023, the year ahead. Um, Again, I'm pretty much going to go down the list of just like release order. He says, "Oh, on my end, there are emojis." Um, just going to go down the list from release order. Throw in a few honorable mentions along the way, but I will say this: undoubtedly, my number one, miles ahead of anything else coming out this year, my number one most anticipated film of 2023 is Evil Dead Rise. Fuck yes, dude. Just across the board, fuck yes. I'm so glad that one, we're getting a new Evil Dead movie. Two, they just dropped the trailer and it looks incredible. It looks so good, dude. We haven't had one in 10 years. It's been 10 years since the last Evil Dead movie we've got. Like, we got the Ash versus Evil Dead show, we got the video game, but we have not had a theatrical release. I'm so glad that they moved it from HBO Max to theaters because this thing looks insanely good, especially as an Evil Dead fan. I've been looking forward to this movie. It was my number one, but yes, that fucking A, they're gonna tear our souls apart, and I'm here for it. Uh, that I mean, it's still nothing's touching it. It was my number one even before the trailer dropped, and now it's my number one by a long shot. So yes, number one most anticipated movie of 2023, Evil Dead Rise. Even with no Bruce Campbell, it still looks fucking incredible. Exactly. If it has the Bruce Campbell seal of approval, I'm in. Plus, Shep, we haven't really talked much about the trailer other than just thinking it looks good, but the redesign on the Necronomicon is that shit's nice. I like that. I like the way the Necronomicon is looking in this. Um, and I'm not going to keep going on about Evil Dead Rise. We got other shit to get to, but most anticipated. Um, a movie coming out. There's a couple movies coming out in January. I'll call them honorable mentions. One comes out here in a few days that Shep brought to my attention. It's coming out on Shutter. It's a horror movie called Skinamarink, and it's like an experimental horror film. I can tell this is one that's not going to be for a lot of people. It might not even be for us, but we are looking forward to seeing that here at Chase and Shep. Um, so at the end of the day, we'll see how it goes. Another one that's coming out in January that I'm really looking forward to is You People with Jonah Hill and Eddie Murphy. It's like the classic, guess who's coming to dinner plot of a white man marrying a black woman and their families meeting and all the hilarity that ensues there. Um, but it just looks like a really cool take on that. But to get into my like official anticipated ones, February got two of them. Knock at the Cabin. It's an M Night Shyamalan movie. Got Dave Batista in it. And when the trailer came out, I'm watching it and I'm like, this looks so familiar. And it's because it's based on a book called The Cabin at the End of the World. And I picked up that book at the library last year. And from the trailer, they've adapted it quite well, it seems. Because, I mean, the scene in the trailer when Dave Batista first shows up at the house and the little girl's outside is almost verbatim how it was at the opening of that book. So I'm looking forward to that. M. Night Shyamalan, he's one of those filmmakers, man, that every time he makes a movie that disappoints, you know it's going to happen sometimes. He's just like, yeah, M. Night Shyamalan, okay. Sometimes he's great, sometimes he's not. But every time he drops a trailer, I'm excited for whatever is coming next, whether it's a hit or a dud. But this one I'm feeling really good about. I really hope it's one of his good ones. So that's one of my most anticipated. And then a few weeks after that, we're getting Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania. Um, Definitely, I'm hyped for all three Marvel movies this year. It's hard to say I'm more hyped for one over the other, but I'm really looking forward to this one. I'm just hoping it comes with a lot of surprises, a lot of big impacts to the MCU. I'm looking forward to seeing Kang. I really like Jonathan Majors as an actor, so I'm really looking forward to him like fully getting into the Kang role. Um, and fingers crossed that Ant Man makes it out of this motherfucker alive because it's not looking good. Um, Honorable mention Cocaine Bear. I mean, come on. It's a bear hopped up on cocaine killing motherfuckers. I mean, it looks like a fun time. Ain't gonna be winning no Academy Awards, but it looks like a fun time. Uh Creed 3, honorable mention. Scream 6, really looking forward to Scream 6. Like I said earlier, big fan of the Scream franchise. Really enjoyed Scream 5 this past year. And we're being promised the most brutal Scream ever made. So that has me excited. And the new locale, everybody's moved to Ghostface Takes Manhattan, baby. It's finally happening. So we're only a few sequels away from Ghostface in space. Um, John Wick Chapter 4, because I'm always coming back for John Wick, buddy. Uh, it's just, it's been hit after hit. I think all three of them are excellent films. I'm hoping that they can keep that going with number four. I definitely did not think we were going to be getting four John Wick movies, and we got spin-offs coming. We got a John Wick spin-off TV show coming out this year. So big year for the John Wick. Um, April, a little bit before Evil Dead Rise comes out, I'm really looking forward to the Super Mario Brothers movie. Um, it just looks like a blast, man. It just looks like so much fun. It's the I everybody else had a problem with the voice cast, but like as soon as they announced the voice cast, I was like, that's a solid cast. I'm really looking forward to that. And then once they dropped the trailer and everybody's like, holy shit, this actually looks like it's gonna be good. Um, I'm hoping it will be. And I'm hoping we can start getting with that and The Last of Us coming out this year. I'm hoping we can start getting better video game adaptations. I hope 2023 is the Jordan year we're all looking for, even in the video game adaptation industry. Of course, after that in May, we got Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. We talked a little bit about that yesterday, so I won't go into it too much. But, Guardians have always been near and dear to my heart. James Gunn, this might be his last hurrah over at Marvel. It's definitely the last hurrah for this set of the Guardians, and I'm sure I'm going to fucking sob like a baby uh, at this movie. Uh, June, we get a double dose of superheroes with Spider Man Across the Spider Verse, which I'm really looking forward to. I hope it can live up to the original. And The Flash, the movie that has eluded us for decades. Um, the problematic Flash finally hitting theaters allegedly in June. So hopefully that's the case, and hopefully it's as good as everybody says it is. As Shep pointed out on the show yesterday, they said that the test screenings have been doing as good as The Dark Knight was back in '08. So July, I got four of my most anticipated movies hitting in July with Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part One. I'm a big Mission Impossible fan. I'm gonna take Mission Impossible over James Bond any day. It's my spy movie of choice. I think they're so much fun. Uh, I haven't seen the last one yet. I've been slacking, but it gives me incentive to go do that now with Dead Reckoning coming out. Um, One that might surprise some people. I'm hyped as fuck for Barbie next year. I think that looks great. Um, when they first announced they were doing a Barbie movie, it was like a little bit of news at a time would come out about this movie that made me more and more and more intrigued to the point where I'm like, am I really this excited for a Barbie movie? Hell yeah, I am. As soon as they announced Margot Robbie was playing Barbie, I was like, brilliant. That's perfect. Ryan Gosling is Ken. Perfect. Also in the cast, you got Simu Liu, you got Issa Rae, you got Will Ferrell, tons of people in this movie, and behind the camera are like these Academy Award winning filmmakers. Greta Gerwig is directing, and these are not people who do studio movies like this. So I'm curious to see what they bring to it. And they finally did drop a trailer a few weeks back, and it looks like it's so much fun, dude. Like it just looks like it's going to be a good time. Um, Oppenheimer, the new Christopher Nolan movie. Um, I like Christopher Nolan's movies. Tenet fell off with me a little bit. I was not a big fan of Tenet, so I'm hoping that Oppenheimer kind of comes back to his earlier stuff and not another Tenet on our hands. And then we got the Marvels closing out the Marvel movies of the year, um, and I'm really looking forward to that. The continuation of those storylines. Uh, Honorable mention, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. This should have came up yesterday, but it was not on the list we were reading off of for superhero movies. But Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem coming at us from Seth Rogen, and I believe his partner Evan Goldberg is working on this as well. Animated movie. I think it's in good hands. Seth Rogen has been doing amazing things with the superhero comic book genre. The Boys, Invincible, Preacher. So I'm excited to see what he brings to Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Um, then finally, Dune Part Two. I'm really looking forward to the follow up. I really enjoyed the first Dune that came out, I guess, a couple of years ago now. Um, I've been waiting in anticipation to see how the next half of this shakes out. And then, of course, because there's such great movies, apparently Trolls 3 is dropping this year. And if you haven't seen Trolls, it's fucking amazing. I did not think I was going to like that movie when it came out. I was working at Family Video when they dropped the first one. So I took it home. I'm like, "Oh, I'll give it a try." One of my favorite animated movies of all time. I've watched that thing so many times. It's just so goddamn funny. It was not what I expected at all. And Trolls 2 was pretty solid too. So I'm looking forward to Trolls 3. But that is it. That is it. There's plenty of other movies I'm looking forward to next year. Uh, one, I guess, Killers of the Flower Moon, but I never found a release date for that. It's the new Martin Scorsese movie with old Leonardo DiCaprio. So we'll see when that comes out, if it comes out in 2023. But lots to look forward to, lots more movies to watch. Um, I think it's going to be a good year. 2023 is really shaping up to have some hits. 2022 wasn't a bad year itself. So I think that'll do it. Chasing Sunday. Thanks for jamming with me, talking movies. It's one of my favorite things to do. But yeah, what were some of your favorites of 2022? What are you looking forward to in 2023? What were some of your least favorites? Drop it all on me in the comments section. Let us know what's up. Again, thanks for joining me on my solo dolo show, and we'll see you guys later. Peace.